Good morning. Welcome to the January 5th meeting of the Raleigh County Commissioners. Please stand and join the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Weekly meetings.
January is an odd month.
Public comments. Public comments. Okay.
Well, it's good to be back.
All right, welcome. Lights.
Had no problems.
Really? Good.
You're on the Southwest though, right?
No, I was not there. It was crowded though. I mean, I went through Charlotte, North Carolina. It was just packed. And I had to like weave in between people because I had short time between flights. So I was like running over, almost ran over. Yeah, it's good. Well, let's see. The last session we had Thursday. I can't remember what date that was, but I attended our meeting via Zoom from Virginia. And then after that, I spent some time on the phone with Tom Hawk, Cindy Carlin, and various other people concerning Tom's retirement. Had some discussions with people on who would be appointed, and the precinct people will meet tonight to appoint a replacement. It's going to be an interesting meeting.
Close door meeting, right?
Yeah.
No, it's open.
It is.
It's like the same percentage. It's not.
No, it's open to all Democrats and other people, but the only people that can vote are the
Right.
precinct people. So no, it's not. It can't be closed.
I was wondering about that too. That's what
Yeah,
I
they
thought.
just stated that. We've got all sorts of people come to meetings. Regardless. Anyway, Friday I traveled home late and got home late in the afternoon, and a lot of travelers, but everything was moving well on American Airlines. Saturday I went down to Eddyville to watch the Sugar Bowl with friends, and that was a disappointment, but a lot of people down there. They were lining up at 9 o'clock in the morning to get into the various establishments. So let's see. Then I was going to go to the New Year's Eve bash that evening, but I was so tired I just stayed home. I thought I can't manage this.
I had you covered.
Good.
I had you covered.
Good. Let's see. Then and we're going to hand out for potential landowners for a property for the Goody Keats. And I met with Tuesday with Amanda and Vivian on that handout. Also visited with Craig Cox on additional information for that. That afternoon, I attended the Common Table monthly meeting. We got meal reports and had a big discussion on the possibility of utilizing the 9th grade center for nightly meals. I guess that's going to be up before the board. It's going to be some sort of contract or MOA on that. It'd be a huge change. Yeah, so it'll be good. A special committee of them, they're developing a strategic plan, grant possibilities, and a budget. So that was Tuesday. Wednesday afternoon, I visited with Chris Eichmann of NCM to go over their proposed annexation of the property out by the airport. I did so just to gather information to have that available for a public meeting. I am going to go out to the area during this next week to kind of look it over and see where we're at. So that's not all I have.
Oh boy, it's been a year. It feels like it's been a year, but when you think about it, it actually has been a year. Yeah, well, hopefully everybody has a safe and wonderful New Year's and enjoying a prosperous start to 2023. At least as we sit here on January 5th, I'm pretty hopeful 2023 is going to be a different year than the last couple we have. And I'll just leave it at that. Last Friday morning, I joined Judge Grant Bannister, members of the RCPD Law Board, and many others from the community to help welcome and officially swear in our sixth director of RCPD, Brian Pete, at the Riley County Courthouse. Thought the ceremony went very, very well. Certainly look forward to working with the new director, both as a, I guess I'm going to say future member of the law board, because I guess we haven't gotten there just yet, and as well as officially in the Riley County capacity as well. Also Friday, I attended the retirement ceremony for Captain Josh Kyle at Potroff Hall. As you can probably imagine, it was well attended as well. Lots of current and former members of RCPD, as well as members of the community as a whole, were there. Sad to see him retire and move on after 35 years of dedicated service, but I do wish him and his family the very best in whatever their future endeavors will be. Tend to think the community is probably better off as a whole for time served over the last 31 years. Yeah, I watched the game at home Saturday morning. That was kind of difficult and painful, several accounts. Would have liked it to have been at least a little bit closer. Well, if I'm not mistaken, I am the one who did pick Alabama. So
The trader did win.
So yeah, you can
Some people do anything, some people do anything to win.
Exactly.
even pick Alabama. It's painful. It's
You tell who it's true Wildcats are, can't we?
I tend to remember somebody early this season picking against K-State too, though, so I've not been the only
Don't
one.
bring Catherine
Yeah, I did. But I swore never to do it again. So.
I think the important thing to realize is even though this game didn't go as well as planned, we did have a hell of a season. And I think it's safe to say that this Wildcat program is looking very bright and it's in really, really good hands at the moment. So I think we'll get another opportunity and we'll bring home that trophy next time. That's my thoughts. Let's see. Saturday evening, while at dinner, I did catch the men's basketball game, pick up that first conference win versus West Virginia at home against a ranked team. I put down that ran the record to 12-1, but that has since changed. Saturday evening, I did join the members of the Aggieville Business Association and others in the community. Invited my friends out from Hayes. They came out and joined me and celebrated the New Year's at the VIP party at the Beaumont Hotel. And we had entertainment from an actual musician, very, very good. But the musicians, very, very good, I guess. We had members of the aerobatics team, and there were several fire breathers downtown at the corner of 12th and Morrow. They had the apple, and then of course midnight came and we all shot off confetti canyons, and the apple it kind of dropped. It kind of came down and it kind of stopped, and then it kind of did its own thing, but eventually it got there. And maybe that's a metaphor for some things. I don't know.
That was last year, I think.
There was one year where it didn't go off at all, and there was one year somebody forgot to plug it in, so it didn't go off. So, yeah, I guess that part could have been worse. So, yeah.
I heard this year the fireworks thing.
Some of them. First half, and then it just kind of
It's
stopped.
always one or the other this group struggles with.
I think some of that stuff is old school stuff that they've had since they started those celebrations down in 2000s, and take sponsors that are willing to pick up the tab and make it work or not make it work. So probably I would say a new Apple ball setup thingy, something definitely needs to be at the top of the list on that one. But overall, it went very, very well. And there wasn't really any issues or problems, and we all had a lot of fun with it. And Mother Nature cooperated.
Yeah.
There's some years where it's like -5 and it just freeze out there. Little chilly, but it was tolerable. So all in all, we broke in the new year, I think, pretty well. So spent the rest of the weekend watching both some NFL football, the rest of the college bowl game schedule, catching up on some much needed to-do list items at home. I don't think it's a honeydew list if you write it for yourself. I don't haven't put how to put that on there. So I just put 1, 2, 3 down the list, and it's a pretty long list. And so we were able to get most of that taken care of. Let's see, Sunday morning, enjoyed breakfast at the Chef. I think we obviously waited longer than we did actually eating breakfast, but it was good nonetheless. Had fun with that. Let's see, Tuesday evening, watched what I'm going to say a very historic men's basketball game. I didn't realize I was going to be watching an NBA basketball game, but I guess that's what it turned out to be. Setting all kinds of school records in a 116 to 103 win. Offense was good. Obviously, the defense didn't work. But I'll note at the end of the day, it's always good when we take down the Longhorns in any sport. I always feel good walking away from that, particularly when it's on their own home court. Wednesday evening, last night, attended the Ogden City Council meeting. It'd been before Thanksgiving since I attended, but December was just organized chaos as far as I'm concerned. So that's just the way it worked out. But updated them on a few items of vested interest, including our sales tax distribution, a couple of grants they're working on. And then we had a rather spirited conversation on that pocket annexation over there. They decided to draft and adopt a resolution in opposition to the project. I don't try to explain to them it's not how it works, but it just, it's not how it works. So I'll just leave it at that. That's really all I have. It's good to be here for at least one day before we take off another 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Sarcasm.
They go back down last Friday. I also attended the retirement reception for Josh Kyle. And like I said, there's a good crowd, a lot of current and retired other people. And of course, a few of them got to tell some stories about some of his past deeds. That was good. And he was there to defend himself. So. And then Saturday, of course, watched the football game. Not the results we're hoping for. And then that evening we went to the basketball game. It was great. Come from behind. It wasn't as full. It wasn't completely full crowd, but when they needed it, they got plenty loud.
I made it to that game. It was fun.
Yeah, it was.
Went to overtime, didn't it?
Yeah,
The whole family, all the kids went. Yeah.
It was a long game.
It started out.
Lasted almost 3 hours.
It started out. You thought, oh no, and man,
Just
just
kept coming back.
And I think what I realized over these last two games is we've got a very, very solid three with Noel and Tomlin and Johnson at this point in time. And it's just a matter of who fills in the gaps in between that. But we've got two potential player of the year type candidates.
they're fun to watch.
Yeah, they enjoyed it. And Tang enjoyed himself.
It's fun to watch him. He behaves well.
See him after the game.
I did, and I was talking to Elizabeth about that. I needed to stay longer to see.
He comes over when they start playing the Wabash. He goes over and does the Wabash with the students. Yeah,
I should have stayed to watch that.
I guess apparently after the win in Texas, the following morning before the team bus left, he went down to the kitchen and made everybody omelets.
He went at the.
Was that for that? I saw that.
Well, they were staying. They didn't come back. They stayed in Texas because they were playing Baylor. But he went down and worked the omelets for right. So
yeah, it's.
But also, like I said, by the time we got out of that game, and we hadn't had a chance to eat, so we went out and finding a place that was open, found a place to eat. It was almost 10 o'clock, and we just and again instead of going to the Aggieville thing, we just went home. We were tired. Not a big New Year's Day.
Yeah, the midnight singing for New Year's is overrated.
Yes.
Well, what you can do is you can work off of the rest of the world's clock, and you can actually celebrate at like 9 or 10 and just say you're
Yeah,
Australia.
well.
That's what I did.
Originally, sure, that's.
That's right.
I'm always here to help.
And the New Year's Day, we went to our youngest daughter's house in Kansas City for a late Christmas and a birthday celebration for her. Then Monday evening, we watched K-State crush the Longhorns in their new basketball arena. They, just opened this year, and we've set a points record that could last for a while.
What station was that on? I didn't.
Longhorn, you had to. It was on Longhorn Network, but there was a few. So, and I don't know where it came from. It was on Twitch, which I didn't even know what Twitch was. But somebody on the message board,
video version of Twitter.
Somebody put a link to it on there that you could pull up, so we got to watch.
Yeah, no, I would look for it, couldn't find it. But yeah,
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah, it was. Yeah, we've got a, and like I say, defense wasn't, but both teams were shooting lights out. I mean, they just.
Both teams are supposed to be known for their defense, which is the funny thing. You know, Texas is supposed to be solid
The
defense.
side of the game, we were 31 of 33 from the foul line.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a shooter's night. I don't know if they got extra big rims in their new.
Magnets on open there, so he goes and catches it.
And that's all we've got.
Ready for business, commissioners?
I do have one
Oh.
request. I'm sorry, Rich.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like a motion for the board to add an executive session as the very last item on the agenda. After Vivian finishes.
How long?
Probably
Well, I've got an appointment, so I.
about 15 minutes, probably max.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make a motion to add. A second executive session apparently to.
But only the second.
Oh, second.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
Well, we're starting off 2023 well here. Okay. Go ahead and make that motion to go ahead and add an executive session to the end of this morning's agenda.
I would second that.
it moved and seconded to add another executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Ready for business, commissioners?
All right.
First item we have is grant of temporary construction easements for Tabor Valley Road Bridge.
Oh, Evan's here. This must be good news.
Morning, Commissioners, Evan McMillan, Public Works. These easements are just needed so we can keep the residents moving through the area while the bridge is shut down on Tabor Valley. This will be a bridge that the county is building.
That's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that goes across the corner.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've had
Through
some
the
intersection
intersection.
about that. I'm like, we're working on it. So good news. That's good news.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to accept the grants of temporary construction easements for Tabor Valley Road Bridge Improvement Project.
I would second that.
It moved and seconded to approve the temporary easements for the Tabor Valley Road, Tabor. For the bridge. All in favor?
Aye.
Chairman, sign
I
please.
didn't even try to abbreviate that either.
You can always just say the item just presented.
Or that.
Approved what-
What he said.
Yeah, approved what he said.
It's gonna be interesting, the game against Baylor, going back to his old stomping
Yeah, I
grounds.
wonder how they take-
You know, with Martin and Weber, we never matched up well against Baylor because they're always long and athletic, and
Oh,
now it's kind
West
of reversed.
Virginia was long. Their shortest person was 6'6". Oh my God.
Craziest stat I saw over the weekend, the 10 toughest college basketball strength of schedule moving forward. Every single team from the Big 12.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Because there's already
It's-
teams this year.
And
they're
West
all
Vir-
like-
West Virginia's big guy was twice as big as any guy we had on the roster. He's a big guy. Next, commissioners need a motion on the 2023 official depositories.
Go ahead and make a motion to approve the 2023 official depositories.
I would second that.
It moved and seconded to approve the official 2023 official depositories. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, commissioner, need a motion on the 2023 elected and appointed professional position salary resolution.
I had a question on that and I lost my place on the computer here, so let me just a second. Oh, okay, yes. It includes both phases, correct?
This is their 2023, so we will be complete with 2 phases of the salary study, and this is their set final salary for 2023, as approved in the budget.
Okay. And I was trying, okay, that's the other one. It's listed at the bottom that there's a deputy position with a stipend.
Yes, the elected officials each have deputy positions, and there's a $3,000 annual stipend to that position, and so basically they are the second to the elected officials, so,
That was a policy passed decades ago.
yeah. It has been.
And the stipend amount has never increased.
It's never-
It's always.
That was gonna be my follow-up, but
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that the last.
That's the
couple of
amount it
years.
started at, and it has never increased.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's always been just starred like that underneath tiny, so, you know.
So,
I think it's good that way everyone's informed that it does happen.
so is that like internships, that type of thing?
No, no,
Deputies,
to
like
the, to like Rich Fargo's position, we have a deputy.
Susan
county-
Miller's deputy, so she
Okay.
gets 3,000.
Right.
Shiloh, I think it's
I
Donna.
was gonna say, it's not just elected.
Oh, yeah, I apologize. 'Cause you-
No, I just, so they're
So I'm
clear.
a deputy position.
Yeah. So be nice.
Well, you can all have deputies, right?
You get a little badge.
That's just worth it for the day.
Do we get,
You get a badge, it comes out of your stipend.
do we get a pistol with one bullet?
You know, you get a squirt gun.
Naturally.
Squirt gun.
It's not a great badge.
Can I make a motion that we get tasers?
No.
I think that's a very
You can make a
good.
motion.
We should discuss the consequences of that.
There's your third executive session.
Right.
Okay, no third executive session, I'm good. We go, motion withdrawn. Okay. Okay. So I'll go ahead then and make a motion to approve the 2023 elected and appointed professional position salary resolution.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded to approve the salaries resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
All three sign, please.
And that pay period for this started on.
24.
Okay.
And that's on that resolution.
But it is, yeah, it's 24. So we have double checked and triple checked and everyone's been able to look at
First
the
page,
pay rate.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Second, yeah. second paragraph.
So you had a good New Year's Eve party?
I had a, yeah, I got crazy. I wish I had a great story.
Oh,
She won't kick me again.
That not.
And that's what I work for. Hey,
Yeah,
one
that's,
second.
I mean, read every one of those notes. It's got a really interesting.
Chocolate.
Have not seen that.
Chocolate bridge, frosting surface and sprinkle seating.
Yeah.
That's cute.
That's creative.
Yeah, I think we need to get with, I don't know if I can allow those strategically placed reefs on that new bridge.
This little section, jelly
Gotta
bean.
change the weight limit something.
I'll read this, I'll
Right?
later.
Yeah.
He just smiles, he just smiles. I'm like, all right.
Creative.
Yeah.
Next I have retail dealers 2023 cereal malt beverage license for Ritz Phone.
I thought we just did one.
No, we
No.
sent it to, we approved sending it to the
It's
township.
two processes now. Yeah.
Okay.
It goes to the township for them to approve or deny or object it, and then comes back to us for the official signing after we get no negative response from them.
And that's for the entire year.
It is
So do they still have to come back and ask for a specific one for an event that's
for
on their
special
property?
events. Uh-huh.
Even if it's on their property and they have that one already?
Well, this is for a specific address, so it would depend on where they have it.
Well, if you remember,
Well, special events, though, remember, there's certain regulations that Amanda has on it that regulates based on size of event.
so if it checks off all those
This is
boxes,
just-
then that license still applies to that if it's on that property at that.
This is
address.
just for retailers. That's not retail. That's not retail, that's special event.
Well, I'm just trying to understand why we
That's a
fill out
special
one.
event.
That's kind of redundancy as far as I'm concerned on that. I mean, if they're doing something off-site under their name, I got that, but. You know, they have, for instance, if you remember the back end of 2020, they were allowing outdoor concerts out there because they had several promoters doing that. They had to ask for that license.
Mhm. There's a reason for it though, because there's other things, just other concerns other than just the alcohol aspect with the larger event. That's the reason.
traffic and.
Neighbors' concerns.
But if all those boxes check off, like, my question is why can't that license that's already in place at that address apply to all of it for the entire year? You have to come back through, go through the process again. I mean, it's redundancy. That's what I'm getting at.
Well,
There's-
And Amanda probably took the wrong time to come down here. So.
maybe this is just for malt beverages, but the events are separate. Is that the way it is?
Oh, it's just been special events.
Special events are
This,
separate.
this covers just sales,
Basic.
making sales in this building. Special events.
What is the number?
That was just my soapbox this morning.
That's actually events.
We have to-
And I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the retail dealers 2023 cereal malt beverage license for Britt Farms.
I would second that.
And then seconded to approve the 23 cereal malt beverage license for Britt's Farm. All in favor?
Aye.
Chairman, sign please. And commissioners, we have one tax roll correction. Yes.
Go ahead and make a motion to approve the tax roll correction.
I would second that.
They moved and seconded to approve the tax roll corrections. All in favor?
Chairman, sign please. Any corrections in the minutes, commissioners?
No, oh, that is just the one for the. Couldn't figure out why it was the 14th and 16th, but that's for the
Special meetings.
special meeting. Okay.
I did the same thing. Like, wait a minute. We're not even meeting that much this month when the date's wrong.
Any changes to the minutes, commissioners?
I didn't see anything. I'll go ahead and approve, make a motion to approve the minutes from the Riley County Commission meeting dated December 29th, 2022.
I would second it.
I moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the December 29th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
How the tentative agendas look, commissioners? Any items for next week's press conference? We want to let commissioners know on update on the CASA move out. Carson had sent me and sent a group of us, John and Amanda, and I think Amanda was on there. Maybe Amanda wasn't on there. But regarding moving out, they asked for 7 more days. So January 27th, I said that was fine. Go ahead, just notify us when you're out. I didn't figure 7 days was a big deal, so let's just get done with it. They had some conflicts and problems, and it's the holiday, so
Yeah, so
just want to let you know. So it's moved from the 18th to the 27th. They'll be out. We have Amanda commissioners at 9 o'clock. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning.
That's why Johnson. Especially considering he has to play for 2 years.
I know.
And he couldn't even practice for the first year.
Oh, yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I heard.
He did kind of.
You know, what I noticed though, I wonder if it's because of his condition.
He keeps pulling him in out a lot.
I wonder if the doctor said, hey, you can play at a high level, but you know, once you take breaks and that's great. But what's odd is so many people that seems to affect their game coming in and out. And he just takes off where he was at, you know, shows how good he is.
He's very much so in the hunt for player of the year. And Wilson kid probably from KU probably gets it.
Well, in the way he does it, he's not arrogant, he's not flashy, he just does
Just
it.
so smooth too.
Yeah.
You know,
He reminds me a lot of Beasley without the flair. Just in the way he goes about it, it's effortless.
but also one of these games, we don't have to sing. This is up to. Same level seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's impressive.
And the two highest ranked freshmen that we brought up this year allows us to redshirt them. So they'll be,
Except he didn't redshirt one of them, and he's played. Finisters played.
I was thinking about Manning and Cole.
Got it. And rolls like a leaf down, man.
Okay.
One was a sophomore. All that stuff happens so fast. I haven't really sat down to.
See if you too, I think. Yeah. I know, reading all those old
It's hard to
every,
say it.
yeah, it's hard to read all those old notes.
Embankments.
Yeah.
Just what we need.
Yeah,
An engineer who's really, really into Christmas.
all the kids over there looking at it.
You know,
Yeah, oh, yes.
all right. Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Webb, Planning Director. I actually have a lot to talk about, so I'll try to
Two
keep it moving.
times,
What's that?
2 times. today.
I do know. So, okay, so just to get started, short-term rentals, that's always one of our hot topics to talk about. So I wanted to give you our actual numbers. So this is as of December 29th. We are working with 27 known short-term rentals. As I always say, these are the ones we know about. There's likely others that we don't, that we'll still have to kind of figure out how we can figure it out, basically. One thing to quickly update, we did receive another application yesterday. That was from on our list, so we're excited to say we have 16 applications now and 6 who have not applied, so we're whittling it down. So kind of what I have up there, I just kind of wanted to outline again, applications received, how many we've actually issued. We're of course working on some upcoming inspections, where there's a couple that need their tank pumped, because they also have to meet environmental health standards. How many we sent different letters to, how many have applied since each of those letters. There's several that are no longer operating. There's several that are certified on their own. And then again, that number at the bottom should now be 6 that haven't applied yet. We have, let's see, today's the 5th. We gave everybody the letter we sent at the end of November, gave everybody to January 20th. I know we've sent several letters. I know it's been a while that we've been trying to work on this. But as you folks know, I mean, we don't want to go to the code enforcement process if we don't have to. So if we can try to work with people, hey, you know, give them that reminder. The gentleman who called me yesterday and submitted his application yesterday, he's like, I am so sorry. It just slipped my mind, and you know, that kind of thing. So it wasn't somebody who just ignored or that kind of thing. So that's why we really do try to, you know, get the letters out and get communication with people. So, however, there's probably going to be at least a few that will have to proceed to legal enforcement about to work that way. Hopefully we'll get a couple more, if not all, by January 20th, but we'll see how that goes. But I will keep you posted. Any questions on that?
No, it has been a pretty good response, you know. I'm surprised there's how many have, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But and like I said, most people want to do it right. So
Right, exactly. And that's really what we find. People just aren't necessarily aware of certain things. So we let them know, and then, you know, they apply and it's fine. So okay, so next I have on here code enforcement process, but I'm actually going to save that for last because that's a little bit of a separate report that we'll talk about. Community ratings system, CRS certification, that has to do with our flood insurance, basically. The National Flood Insurance Program, our CRS community classification, we're currently class 9, as we have been for quite a few years. That by being a class 9, that saves property owners within unincorporated Riley County 5% of their flood insurance premiums. We have to recertify every year in some manner. So that'll be before you folks on Monday, January 9th. We'll have that information before you to take a look at. We'll need Commissioner McKinley's signature as the chair and CEO of the county. It's just what the program requires. So we'll talk a lot more in depth about that on Monday, because I know it'll be, I think, a couple of years first time that we're going through the more involved certifications. I just want to make sure you folks are aware of what we're looking at. So, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that that's coming. One quick thing to mention. So we have our planning board meeting on Monday, January 9th in the evening. We have a conditional use permit for a secondary dwelling in the ag district. That goes before our board of zoning appeals and is reviewed and decided by the BCA. So that's just how conditional use permits work. So you folks won't actually see or have to review or decide on that conditional use. Just wanted to keep you updated on what we're doing at the planning board and board of zoning appeals level. And then there's a few other things that they're doing there that don't necessarily need to outline right now. A couple things to note for personnel. I will be out of office January 19th through February 1. I won't have a whole lot of access to email, which makes me nervous, but I'll do my best. So just wanted to give you all a heads up that I will be out. And to that end, I worked with Cindy to bump my February staff time to the 9th rather than on the 2nd. The first day I would be back. So I'll make sure I give you a good report, other than how I.
So we should hear about your vacation.
So, yeah. And of course, as you folks know, you approved the refilling of our as-needed clerical assistant position, and the job's been posted, and we have plenty of applicants that we're looking through. We'll probably get some interviews scheduled here on the next week or two. Couple other things I wanted to mention. So the battery recycling educational program, Mr. Bowler and I had a brief spot on the December 27th WIBW 6 o'clock news talking about battery recycling. Thanks to Vivian for coordinating that. Always have to get our message out. So I'm glad to do that. And we have some presentations coming up actually next week and then in February. Some of the different groups. Any questions on any of that so far before we move on to code enforcement? Okay. So let's change gears here a little bit. Okay, so what I've included here, it's obviously just a brief, simple report that we have here about the property maintenance code violations and the zoning regulations violations that were new in 2022. That is, we received them in 2022, and we've been working on them obviously in 2022. It doesn't include ones that have been ongoing. It doesn't include ones that were open in prior years that maybe resolved in 2022. And it also doesn't include sanitary code violations because those work a little bit differently than PMC and zoning regulations. So it just didn't want to overcomplicate this little report. I just wanted to keep it simple, but I'm always happy to bring more detail, more information you folks at any time. So the intent of bringing this before you was, of course, we always talk about the ones that are really visible, the ones that have been going for a long time, the ones that people see out there. And, you know, of course, that's very, very understandable that people would be concerned about the ongoing ones, the ones they really see out there. But I just wanted to draw attention to that there are actually a lot of other ones that we do receive, and we've actually been able to work through either remedying them, abating them, that kind of thing. So there are a lot that we work through and resolve, or other ones that we are still working through. Some of these issues are remedied simply with a phone call or some other form of communication. Both Perry and Darren have made phone calls, follow-ups to people. Hey, I noticed you're starting to build a building and we don't have a permit on file. Or with Perry, hey, you know, when he does, you know, an inspection, hey, something is broken in your system, you know, that kind of thing. And they both spend a lot of time on the phone or making some other communication with people. And a lot of times kind of goes back to what we were talking about just a minute ago. People don't necessarily realize what they need to do. Simple phone call, let them know, hey, you do need a permit for that. They apply for their permit and they go on their way. And so that never evolved into a full-blown code enforcement case. So that's never on your list that you receive. You receive, of course, that monthly staff project list from us. But if it never evolves into a full violation, it won't be on there. And this happens actually more than you might think, that we're able to just make a quick call. Okay, I'll get that taken care of, and people do. So again, just wanted to kind of draw attention to the different things that we do deal with, separate from the big ones, you know, in the community, or the big obvious ones. Also included in the report is just kind of the code enforcement procedure for the property maintenance code violations, kind of what that looks like, and the zoning regulation violation. The zoning regulations includes one additional letter than the notification letter than property maintenance code. It's just how it's codified. So I just kind of wanted to outline what that process is, so you folks are clear. And then also wanted to outline some of the more typical types of violations we receive in different categories, so. And then again, in the two tables, again, those are ones that were new for 2022. And then you can see the status of them. We've made contact with all of them in some manner. Again, that might be that phone call, it might be a letter, might be notice violation, but all of them have had some sort of contact from our office. And most of them are abated, or most of them were either we're working with, they're making some sort of progress, and people can't always necessarily remedy these things overnight. So as long as they're working with us, if they're making satisfactory progress, we monitor and just make sure they're getting it taken care of. And then there's just a few more that we need to get building permits from. So we give them a little bit of time, and then we'll follow up to make sure they get what they need and their violations are remedied. So yeah, I just wanted to provide a little bit of information about specific set of code enforcement violations that we deal with. Again, I know that's kind of a lot to throw at you in a little simple form, but I'm happy to provide more detail or more information about our other violations, anything like that, or anything that I've presented here. So certainly please just let me know what would work for you folks. So
I think it would actually, sorry,
No.
I think it would actually be beneficial at some point in time to have maybe both Darren and Harry work through the discussion on that process.
Sure. Absolutely.
I don't think a lot of people know just how difficult county code enforcement in Kansas is.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that we don't have a lot of teeth in that game,
Right.
to be honest with you. And
Yeah.
so, but they kind of go through from start to finish and what some of those options are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of two parts to that, just what you mentioned, Commissioner Ford, that we don't have a lot of teeth in what we do. We just kind of have to rely on, luckily, the property owner is willing to work with us, and unfortunately that doesn't happen all the time. And, the other thing I think would be important to having them talk about the process is, things do take time, even with people who do wind up abating and remedying. It does take time sometimes. And of course, people are just driving by looking, well, that's still a mess. The county's doing nothing. So I do think it's important that, people are aware of the process, and yes, we are doing something, even though it doesn't always necessarily be that. So yeah, I'll definitely get some time for them to come in and have that conversation.
On this and short term, like you said, most of the people just made aware of the problem. That it's the old thing that 10% take up 90%.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we tend to find.
I see that one being a little bit more of a wider range deal because a lot of people like those Verbo and Airbnb, excuse me. And a lot of people, when they come in here, they don't want to stay at a hotel or necessarily in city for a football game or graduation or event. And so I think you're going to see a lot more of those, and it's going to think that you're going to see a lot more people using those. So supply and demand kind of meets the need there. So there's going to be more of them.
Absolutely.
And I would tell you, there's a lot more of them already than what's on that page.
Yes, for
Well,
sure.
there's a lot more in town. You can see them popping up. all the
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
For sure.
And they're getting pretty creative on how that works.
Yeah, they're very popular. There's a lot of different sites that people.
I think there's a lot of property owners that are vacating the idea of actually leasing their property throughout the year, whether it's student-based, military-based, whatever, and going to this model because you could actually, if you do it right, you could actually make more in a year by doing that than just simply leasing.
Yeah. Well, and it's also not just here, but across the country, it's actually kind of contributing to some of the housing problems because people are buying up second homes and using them as these rentals, which is great, but then people who actually live there can't afford or can't find a home to live in. So it's kind of that balance, but I know they're very, very popular and have just increasing over the years. So just been working with those. So any other questions? I'll be back soon to talk about.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, Commissioners, Michael Bowles.
Second.
Yeah, ain't that fast.
Oh, yeah, it's
Well,
not,
actually, it's probably never really that fast.
Door was weird.
Let's just be honest.
not on.
That's weird.
That is weird.
Maybe the electricity knocked it out or something.
What's the problem?
Yeah, they're both cranked up all the way, but there's no heat even from that base pipe. So yeah, the boiler's not working.
Call over here.
It's comfortable. I thought it's great in here.
So-
Well, it should be 24 hours a day.
Did you happen to get a blanket for Christmas?
Like bringing.
And what's those onesies that they used that were real popular?
Oh,
for?
yeah, you want me to stick that camera in a onesie, yeah.
Well, that's snuggies. The ones that kind of throw these up and they have the arms and
Yeah, you might-
it's a full blanket. We'll get a purple one. We'll put a power cat on it.
You're a snuggie with something different.
I better get started. Good morning, Commissioners. I'd like to-
Get us back on track.
Yes, sir. We're at the academy, noxious weed staff update. We'll start on the noxious weed side. Our crews have cleared the equipment for building site. Our building is slated to begin anytime, hopefully being completed by May. Cleary Buildings is the one replacing our building that was destroyed in the storm, so we're anxious to get that back. Tree and brush removal projects continue this month with weather permitting. Both the gravel and the pavement crew from Public Works have been working on tree and brush removal in the month of December as well. So they've really helped us out significantly in that. Helped us get some mowing done later in the month of November and December there. Winter maintenance has started on the roadside sprayers, the rental sprayers and the tractors. That will be ongoing all winter. We've had one snow removal call out in December. The crews did a really good job battling the ice and snow. We had one of our members was right behind the KPNL truck that went over the ditch. And so when those big trucks start to sway, there's no bringing them back. But unfortunately, I think you get a false sense of security thinking that they won't go in the ditch, and they most certainly will. So we're fortunate that we didn't have any other accidents on that major one that I think of that didn't involve a county truck. So I'm grateful for that. We have done an inventory of list of items that we're hopefully going to sell in the spring, including one of our large tractors. Hopefully that's going to help offset some of the costs of the approval of a purchasing tractor that the commission approved for purchase. So we have got a pretty good list there, and we're working with Public Works and to have an auction hopefully in the spring with some of those items sold off. Then on the HHW side, we had a very interesting month in December. On December 10th, 2022, we did a clean out. Generally, we anticipate about 30 participants and about 1,500 pounds of material. Unbeknownst to us, Riley County Vivian put something out, and so did Howie's. And Howie's goes to the region, not just Riley County. And so they serve all of Pot County, Gary County, Waupuncie County. We had 160 people show up and over 8,000 pounds of material. If that's something we have to avoid, obviously that is for Riley County participants only. We have also always put out that no truckloads of material. Clearly, I think I need to be more specific. Truckloads of material, that's kind of an ambiguous statement. And so moving forward, we're going to be limiting it to 25 items per person. And that's going to exclude, of course, like light bulbs, medication, that sort of thing. But we cannot go up. We have to follow DOT regulations, and we can't allow an 8,000 pounds of hazardous waste in that trailer moving forward. So we're going to have to, and we did even that day try to accommodate everybody that we could, but we did have to send several folks up to our shop to unload. But traditionally, Howie's, and a couple of things I want to stress here, it's always free. But I think folks thought it was an amnesty day, but it's always free. It is for Riley County residents only. And 25 items would be like 25 gallons of paint when we need those to come into our main shop. It has always been for those folks that might not have the means to drive all the way out there, or that only have a handful of items and don't really feel that it's worthwhile to drive all the way out there. That's what the Howie's is cleanup is for. It is not for cleaning out your garage Saturday morning and bringing them down to us. So we're hoping to get the word out on that. We're also wanting to get the word out this month as the month of January, a lot of people clean out cabinets, clean out stuff, and the medicine cabinet is one of them. One of the worst things you can do for our environment is take out your medication from your medicine cabinet and put it right into our water system in the sewer. Water treatment plants does not treat for prescription meds or medication, and all of that eventually goes right into our water stream.
That might explain that.
Yeah, and there are lots of studies about that point to different things that are causing different problems, and I won't get into all that, but what I do want to stress is that the worst thing you can do is put it down the sewer. So please, we do accept medications. We ask that they be out of the bottles, be in plastic baggies. But we do accept them and they're free of charge. So we're putting that out this month. That it's a good month when people are cleaning out their cabinets, not just please do not put them down the sewer system.
Good thing is our water goes to Lawrence and they do get it from the river.
They do.
And that really does explain a lot.
That is accurate. Our water, we can go 9 minutes to the river, and then that goes to Lawrence, and that's where it gets their water. That is the accurate statement. Let's see, moving on. We do have recycling. We have an abundance right now and very popular. So please come out and get some latex paint if you're in need. Raleigh County Big Lakes Regional HHW Board of Directors, we met on the 15th of December 2022. And unfortunately, we had to increase our budget this year. Our budget went up a little over 30,000, and that is a direct result of transportation costs and commodities, specifically the cost of steel. Our steel drums went up from $50 beginning of the year. Now they're currently setting at $117 a drum. So by the time you pay $70 for shipping per drum plus $115 per drum, and that's included the cost and the disposal of the material itself. So our costs have unfortunately gone up significantly, and so our Big Lakes budget went up as well. That budget is then spread across 11 different counties based on population. Bradley County pays about a third of that. But then the rest is picked up by other counties. So that budget does affect several other counties. But the feedback that I've done is everybody understands everything is going. It's just where we're at. As a direct result of that, however, disposal cost of business waste out of Riley County has gone up effective immediately the 1st of January 2023. This again is a direct result of our costs of having disposal. Again, all HHW disposal is free to Riley County citizens so long as they're not in business. If they're a business, they have to help cover our cost of disposal. And that cost is our cost plus 50%. That's for handling, shipping, all of that to cover our cost that businesses aren't costing the taxpayers of Riley County money to get rid of it. But it's still cheaper than taking it anywhere else. I'm sure. In the other category, I will be working at the Speaker Farm Show representing Riley County here in January, on January 12th. I've also begun preparations for our basic school. Our basic school I put on every year along with the Association of Kansas Department of Ag. That event is hosted every year in Manhattan for a week. And that week will be March 6th to March 10th. All new media directors are statutorily required to attend that training. So that gives me the opportunity to meet all the new directors that come in. There have been a lot of them. Recently, we've been averaging 40, 45 students out of 105 counties. It's quite a bit, but that also includes some helpers, that sort of thing. But the number of people, students coming through that class is raised significantly. And then finally, our preparations have begun to conduct our 8-hour reports that's required by KDHE. For the counties in the Big Lakes region, and we at Riley County help conduct that training and put it on out there at our facility, along with over in Junction City. So we're scheduled for April 2023 for that training. And with that, commissioners, I think I've covered all the little details that got out there for this month.
How much business waste hazardous waste from businesses?
It varies. It varies from month to month. Of course, it can go up in the springtime. And we do keep those specific numbers I would say it's probably about 12%, somewhere in there, the actual waste that we took in. And to give you an idea, we did a little over 600,000 pounds material last year. So I would say it's about 10%, 12%, that neighborhood on that in business waste. And in sort of the business waste we look at is latex paint. Yeah, that's
Painters.
Painters are the big one, and it has recently went up significantly. It almost doubled. It went from roughly $4 a gallon to $8 a gallon to dispose of. Now, having said that, I always like to share. A lot of folks I can think of, the metal mark will bring in literally a huge trailer because as folks come into the facility, they want a different color paint on the wall, and they will have a lot of good paint. So although they might be able to bring in 1,000 gallons of paint at $8 a gallon, that's a significant disposal cost. But we always work with these businesses because we have a recycling program. And if it's good, viable paint that we can put out the front door for free, then we're not charging that as it's a gallon of paint. And we always prorate it. If it's a gallon of paint, but it's only got a quarter gallon in it, then that's a quarter gallon. And so we're always trying to be in favor of the business. But at the end of the day, when it is costing us almost $8 a gallon to get rid of bad paint, somebody has to pay that price.
But because that was my other, I answered my other one was the latex paint you give out. Where how do you get? Is that what's coming in from business?
Business and folks. A lot of people in PCS and the military won't pay to ship anything that's in your home, under your sink, your garage, and so that's why we get a lot of viable stuff. I mean, we get good motor oil. We literally get perfumes, colognes, deodorant that's still in an aerosol can, and so it runs the gamut. Anything that's in your home, we can provide for free. But latex paint is one of the more popular ones. Yeah. And we do mix up our own custom colors out there. We keep a lot of the reds out. It used to be what we did. We mixed red in with everything. It came out this paint kind of, and nobody wanted it. But now they're herb tones. We keep white separate. So white, very popular. And we ship them out the front door in 5-gallon buckets. And we will do easily 1,500 gallons a month. I mean, just a significant amount of paint is out the front door. And businesses have caught on to that and will use the paint to, paint a house, make $1 here or there, paint a house. So it's been very popular paint. And our paints are a mix of all the good paints. They call them super paint. They love our paints because it's a mixture of, you get a lot of good Sherwin-Williams and Behr paints and mix them all together and come up with this really good paint that lasts. It really does. It's good stuff. Thank you for the question. Yeah. Commissioners, I have one more brief item for you. It's an action item. It's our yearly KDOT contract renewal. As you will recall, KDOT and townships yearly contract with us to create noxious weeds along township roadways and state roadways. And this year, KDOT is asked to renew that contract again. The numbers have changed this year that are on the contract that I've provided copies for you. The two big numbers are the hour rate for the operator and then the cost for the truck itself. And that has gone up from $40 an hour for the truck to $55. And that is clearly to make sure the county is covering our cost of diesel fuel, gas, those sort of things for the truck itself. And then the hourly rate is our two operators and our office assistant who works on the paperwork. It's an average of their salaries, including all their benefits. So that's how we come up with those numbers. So those numbers cover our costs as we conduct this business for the contract. So, and then they also pay full price for our chemical as well. That ensures that Riley County is not losing any money providing the service for the state. And so I have included a copies of the contract to, if you so choose to approve the contract, I'm recommending the approval of the 2023 KDOT contract.
So we do all the KDOT roads in the county?
Yes, sir, we do. We do all the KDOT roads and then we do township roads that contracts with us. And that the state every year renews different townships based on budgets. Generally will go about every second or third year contracting with us. And so we go in ebbs and flows in there. We will see as many as last year. We had 9 townships, I believe. In the 5 years I've been here, the fewest we've had is 4 townships. So that varies. Obviously, it does dictate our workload. But we always make sure moving forward, priority goes to Riley County, our roads are taken care of, but we do have the ability to do all these roads.
And one of my questions was, had we adjusted pricing, and you said that had.
Yes.
That year, the prices, everything went crazy.
Yeah, and everybody kind of understands that and
Yeah.
expects that. And unfortunately, even in my personal life, and my car bill, my cable bill, I mean, I think everybody. It's just, I don't know if they're using it as an excuse now, but we certainly in our field deal directly with diesel fuel,
Right.
driving the cost, fertilizer, and in the chemical that we put into our products that we spray, have some connection to Ukraine and China. And the numbers are just going through the roof. I think that we're going to see a lot of stabilization this spring. It's not going to be as crazy as it was in 2022. I certainly hope so. I mean, we just can't afford to continue to see this trajectory up. It's going to have to stop at some point. And I believe we're vocally saying that now. But I have certainly built in the cost that we're covering the cost. That's for sure.
Questions?
Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion then to approve the annual contract between KDOT and Riley County for county treatment.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the 2023 KDOT contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Chairman sign, there's not really a line just signed under where it says Board of County Commissioners with a line for the district engineer, so.
Yeah, that
Odd format on this.
it is. It's been that way every year, Rich. I don't know what.
I can just sign under.
Yeah,
that.
it says Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner, you have Anna Burton.
This thing's driving me nuts this morning. Oh.
Yeah, could you put in a work order? Public work on the boiler road. Okay, thank you.
Morning, Commissioners, Anna Burton, Riley County Appraiser's Office. I'm gonna start like I usually do, personal property. December 29th, all personal property renditions were mailed out with updated instruction sheets. And special attention was noted to return to our office to avoid penalties. As these start coming in, we'll update our records and on all of that return and get those valued in our system. On January 1st, 2023, again, those new proration rules will take effect for all personal property except mobile homes. It's important property owners are aware that if they sell personal property, they must notify our officers prior to December 20th and provide us with a bill of sale for the proration to be applied. Again, this does not go into effect until January 1st, which we are now at the base. So this is now in effect. This note was added to all of the instruction sheets on all of our that went out this year. On the residential side, staff continue to work through the building permits, and we're in the process of we have begun final review, and we're starting to set values for 2023. This was written obviously last week, so it's referencing next week, which is actually this week. So for clarification, we have begun. We are working through the 2022 payment under protest. At the time I wrote this, I did not have an updated figure due to the holidays, but estimated approximately 75 appeals so far. I will have more accurate totals during February's update. But as of this morning, we had about 58 payment under protests. As of November 21st, we had 1,478 sales, of which 1,356 were residential properties, and that was an increase of 154 residential properties since the last update. The total permits for 2022 were at 375, which was only an increase of 14 from the prior update. The county median sales ratio is still sitting at 0.88, and the median sale price is still at $215,000. All 2022 residential analysis has been completed and preparing for the 2023 valuation to begin. We're not seeing a decrease in sale prices. This is largely due to the limited supply and high demand. As Amanda had mentioned earlier, supply and demand. What to expect for 2023, the market indicates an overall inflationary trend of 10 to 17%. Specific areas may see smaller or larger increases due to market activity. Things to know, if your value for 2022 was set at a prior year or saw a very minimal increase last year, the overall increase this year could be higher than what would be considered typical. When property owners receive evaluation notices in February, I would encourage them to call if they have questions or go through the appeal processes and by following the instructions on the back of the notice. Our goal again this year is to complete final review and mail notices early, like we've done in the past years. We've conducted several interviews for the residential appraiser 3 position and are considering looking at filling it as a residential appraiser 1. We do have additional interviews already scheduled next week, and we'll continue to work through that. On January 2020, our 2023 annual review that's coming up for this current year is 2,936 properties. That's an increase of 261 properties over last year. Basically, this is the process where once every 6 years, all properties have to be reviewed. These are the properties that require inspection this year. We will be requesting the same annual review variance we did for 2022, and we'll begin the process likely in the first part of May. On the commercial side, the Board of Tax Appeals detailed spreadsheet is included in this presentation. I remembered it this time. Thank you, Rich, for assisting me last week. But this is included in here. The one thing I want to note since the last update, we have 66 total, as Icon Investments has 1 additional property. The Auto Museum parking lot has been added to the total count. In addition, I added a new column labeled scheduled. As Commissioner Ford had mentioned, we would probably see all of these start rolling in at the same time. Well, they have.
Yeah.
So there are several scheduled, and I did note on this the scheduled times and days. And as you can see, unfortunately, they have only allowed 1 hour for 3 years of appeal.
Yeah.
Considering what happened with the Home Depot case, which originally had 2 years scheduled, and they reduced it to 1 during the appeal, that took a extensive amount of time. These times allotted are not going to work. We have reached out to Mike Montoya and we let Clancy know that these are up and coming. There are some concerns as our expert witness testimony. He's going to be out of the country for a very big portion of some of this time. So they're looking at rescheduling a lot of these. Since I actually prepared this presentation, we had more come in. And so a couple of things to note, the Country Meadows residence on this list is now scheduled for June 2nd for an hour at 11 o'clock. The Walgreens, all of the Walgreens appeals are scheduled for June 2nd at 1:30 for 3.5 hours. And that's for 3 years, covering 2 Walgreens, but also their parking lots. So essentially there's 2 properties associated with each Walgreens. So yeah, it's not very realistic on the times that have been scheduled. Everything else though, is actually already on here, but those two different, 3 different properties I just spoke about were not, and I wanted to give you the heads up that those are also now coming. And the attorneys have been notified. Currently, the commercial department is wrapping up their income analysis. The income and expense statement return rate was about 13%. While this seems low overall, 88% of what was returned was usable in the analysis. So it's always good to get accurate data. Commercial pups are currently sitting at about 18 as of when I put this together. Evaluations were completed. Coursework for 2023 is in the process of being scheduled for our appraisers. This is some of the other work. The tag rec review was completed, recommendations were made. Several other exemption questions have kind of come up over the last couple of months. And just one thing just to be aware of, processes historically are being updated. We're making sure that we are doing things according to what the Board of Tax Appeals would require. And so one of the things just to know is if the use changes, the ownership changes, and the legal description changes, it requires a new application exception. And so, or a sales of the property, which would be an ownership situation, it requires a new application. And so one of the things I've been working through is getting letters out to property owners that they're going back on the tax roll because something has changed. You know, you pull a permit and you add a building. You expand your property by 10 feet. While it seems strange, your legal description has now changed. You change it from one entity name to another entity name. It's a change. And so we have to go through that process, and only the board has the authority. The Board of Tax Appeals are the only ones that have the authority to approve those. And so just something to take note of because, like I said, this has come up quite a bit. Mail date is set currently with our vendor for the CBNs of February 24th. That is our goal. With a lot of the changes and working through some things, we got a little bit behind on getting that analysis complete. It is done, completed, turned into the state. Now we're just working on valuing. And so our current goal is February 24th to get the mail, get those notices out. I do have a press conference next week, just scheduled to inform the homeowners that yes, values 10 to 17%. Again, just remind them that if you didn't see an increase last year, that's just not normal. If you saw a very minimal increase, again, it's very possible you could see a higher increase than that 10 to 17%. We have to follow the market. So everything that happened in 2022 is being considered in the values for 2023. The legislative reception, January 24th in Topeka, I will be in attendance at that. I have attended that every year for the last few years, and it's important just to talk to the legislators and dialogue with them about any kind of concerns and things like that, what's going on in the different counties. So that's about all I have for you guys today. I don't know if you have any questions relating to it. One other thing to note, North Kansas, I received an email yesterday. Everybody's seeing the same range on their income. I think we had 10 different appraisers respond to the email, and the ranges are 10 to 20% is what a lot of them are seeing. So it was comforting to see that we're not the only ones. Obviously, we set the appraise. We set the value based on the sales. And just because we value a home at a certain, doesn't necessarily mean the taxes are going up. That's outside of the appraiser's office realm. That's all related to the budgetary needs of the different entities.
Question.
Sure.
That sales ratio at 0.88, that and then it below 9.
So one of the
90,
things. One of the things that will happen is the state will look at it. And there's a possibility we could still fall within the 95% confidence, which is one of the things we talked to the state about back mid-year when we saw the same 0.88.
Yeah.
They thought it's highly probable we could still potentially come in that, it's called bootstrap, which means that as long as our ratio is within that 95% confidence level, we could still be okay.
But
I don't know.
everybody's, like I say, it isn't,
We're not the only county.
it isn't one county being out, when all of them are out, then they.
Many,
All
all of them, but yeah.
A lot.
Many of the counties are having those same struggles, which is why that email from the Northeast Kansas appraisers that went out here recently is seeing the same increases. Yeah,
Okay, that's what I thought, I'm like,
yeah, yeah, we have to follow the market by state statute, and that's what we're doing, so.
but then the other thing on your annual review,
Uh-huh.
you said there were 6 years, that whatever.
Once every 6 years.
But it says, the review variance, what's
The
that?
variance process, so what we did last year is, it's kind of a compilation. We did a digital, we have new imagery from 2022. We did what's called a digital review first with our records. And then we did go to all the properties and take a new picture. If something in that digital review was flagged as not matching up with the record, then we would do a physical inspection. And then we also mailed out green cards, which is just the little questionnaires to property owners. We got a new spot. We got a lot of response out of that. People did return those, just confirming information that we have on the properties.
So
So
it said you requested.
the variance through the state, yes.
What do you mean, why is there?
A lot of
variance, I guess.
The variance is just the state's approval that it's okay to use this process.
Oh, okay.
Physical inspection of every property is the preferred method, but the times have changed. Many counties across the state are utilizing a digital variance. The state is working on and considering potentially putting something in statute or in statute or in the directive that says this is okay. So we don't have to request it every year.
Okay.
If that happens, I don't know. We're just gonna plan to submit our request.
Oh, wow.
So,
Now, see, the government really is watching from above.
Yeah.
That's what's so ironic about this anymore. It's based on the digital GIS data, and it's amazing what's done.
It is. There's a lot of
The detail on those pictures
images.
are amazing.
You can measure from those images. So that's what our staff will do. We'll review it and proceed. So. any
No,
other-
I've used, I was laying out something in my yard. I used the
Digital.
GIS thing to figure out where something needed to go.
It's amazing, though.
Yeah, it's very handy and, as we proceed, the annual review is the only process that we use it on, and it'll be for residential, not commercial.
Right.
And so I'll make you more aware when we go through the process and we submit it like I did last year. I'll just inform you that we've requested and it's been approved and whatnot, so.
Remember, due to state statute, we'll send out a second change of value notices. It's really the only purpose is served in the revenue neutral rate.
Yep.
Now, the issues that is causing commissioners is now people are calling the treasurer's office confused to which they pay off of, thinking the change of value notice is their bill. And so it's confusing taxpayers even more.
Because they get the change of value notice, then they get the bills.
And they
And then they
misplace the
also got
bill, the
the
last thing they have is that they find is they're revenue neutral and
Yeah.
they don't understand.
Which is why with our personal property mailings that we send out, sometimes we'll send out a postcard reminder because it's not always clear what they need to do. And so on this letter we sent out to hopefully avoid having to send out those reminders in big red on the front of the envelope, it is stated that return is required to avoid penalty. So we're gonna hope that that will help with some of that. We do what we can. Anything else? Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Next, commissioners, it's time for Amanda.
Me again. Amanda Webb, Planning Director, here to talk about Planning and Development Department's fee schedule. As you folks know, this has been on my goal sheet for a little bit here, so I'm glad to finally be able to have this initial conversation with you folks. So the department's fee schedule was last fully reviewed in 2012. During that time, of course, they gathered all the information that kind of goes into determining a cost, if you will, of processing a permit or a license or an application. staff time, department head time, mileage, mailing costs, all those different sort of things. Which of course makes sense. And most of the fees at the time were increased based on that information that they put together. Since that time, there's been very, very few changes to the fee schedule. There have been several new processes that we've added over the years. And of course, either those have a fee to them or they might not. And that's something we can talk about. But the only fees that have changed since 2012 are a couple of the environmental health fees, and I'll talk a little bit about that more in depth when we get to the environmental health section. And we adopted environmental health in 2012, so that's why there's no previous data on the tables for environmental health. So our current review of fees essentially includes all of the same stuff that they did in 2012, because of course that's all the same information that goes into determining how the cost to the county will. As you can see, I gave you a lot of information, but as you can see from the table that lists the staff hours, we compared the hours that were listed in 2012 versus 2022 for each of the processes and license permits, et cetera, that existed in 2012. And you can see that for the most part, there's actually been very little change in the time it takes staff to do most of these. The processes really haven't changed, so it would make sense that there's not a whole lot of differences in the staff hours. There's actually been maybe a little bit of decrease in some of them because now we have our electronic permit system, so a lot less is being done by our administrative assistant manually. So it takes a little bit of less time for producing reports. But as we all know, the cost of business has increased just because of increased mailing costs, gas costs, mileage, the cost to publish, the cost to record, all these different sorts of things. And I have some of that information for our petitions over 2021 and part of 2022 in there, just kind of showing some of that information. But I don't want to say that our fees are intended to cover every single cost to the county, because that's not the intent here. And I also don't want to say that the citizen needs to bear the entire brunt of these increases. We're all feeling them. I don't think we need to put the entire onus on them by any means, but I think it's important to evaluate our fees since it has been 10 years. Really determine if we need to make some changes to help offset some of the county costs. So there's kind of three different parts that I'm looking at here. Several proposals I'm making really have to do with the look of the fee schedule itself, or kind of clarifying some different things in there, not necessarily any kind of change to the fee itself, but actually kind of how it's listed and what it looks like. I'm going for very, very clear, very transparent. We want people to be able to look at that fee sheet and know exactly what they're looking at, at any of the time as best as we can. Excuse me. There's a few others that I am proposing, most of which don't have a fee right now. And that's either because we haven't recognized this process that it needs to be separate. We'll talk about that. Or these are new, we have a few new processes, like since our land development regulations were adopted, et cetera. And then the last kind of category that I want to talk about are a few things we're looking at or considering that I would like to have some discussion, some maybe direction on from you folks on maybe what you'd like to see with some of these. Let's see. So again, nothing is set in stone here. Nothing is being formally proposed. There's no resolutions, no anything. So no necessarily formal action with you folks today. You're not including any kind of resolution or anything. This is just kind of our first conversations about this. When we talk about the different things that I'm proposing, I have my justifications in there. All these things we can kind of talk about. So, any questions or thoughts so far? Okay, just moving along here. So, of course, in your packet we have our current fee schedule. You can kind of see what it looks like. How it's kind of built out. And I think it works fairly well, but again, I'm just going for very clear, very transparent, very easy to use. So just kind of looking at a little bit of reorganization about that. This spreadsheet shows kind of our fee schedule history, if you will. The earliest one I could find was 1992, all the way up to, of course, 2021, when you folks assigned fees to our agritourism licenses and our short-term rental licenses. That's what we did in 2021. So what I have here is just the different processes when they were introduced, when the fees were introduced, when the fees were changed, when they first appeared, what they are currently, and then the change since the first cost. And you can see again, a lot of them that were assigned in 2012, which has a lot to do with environmental health, have not changed. Just gonna go through here. So this is what I'm proposing for the table itself to look like, for the fee schedule itself to look like. So it's a little bit, it's reorganized. And I'm using the category headers to really be obvious about which is which, basically. There's a little bit of jumbling in our current one. They're not necessarily all in different category order. So just kind of wanting to block it up like that. And then just, again, really making the fees clear as to what applies here. And this is the spreadsheet that we have showing the hours for each process from 2012 for each staff member's time. And that's 2012 versus 2022. Again, as I mentioned before, most of them really haven't changed significantly in time. The process has been pretty much the same too. And the bottom of the spreadsheet, of course, we have new processes since 2012, of course, so we wouldn't have data to compare to. So we just have our 2022 times there. And what the other thing I have included, so this is just the listing of the petitions we did in 2021 and part of 2022, just showing the fees that are assessed for each of them versus at least the publishing costs. What we're responsible for. Of course, doesn't include mileage and gas and mailing, but those really, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, they're not, they don't really impact too much. Okay, so now we will start with each individual fee category is what I'm calling them. So of course, building, floodplain, and signs. So I'm starting with the easy one. I'm not proposing any changes in fees for any of these processes. And that's because, again, the processes are the same. We've been doing the same process, same kind of site visits, same review of application, same conversations with applicants, and that hasn't changed. And yet the time to do it hasn't changed either, even though we have had a change in personnel. It's still just taken the same amount of time. So there's really no, in my opinion, there's no justification to make any kind of amendments to these fees if there's no real differences in how we do things or how long it's taking. One thing I would like to add to the fee schedule, and it's not a new fee, it's just, again, really spelling it out. We assess a double permit fee for any project started without permit, basically. If you start building your building and you don't have a permit, instead of the 150, you're going to have to pay 300. Excuse me. And that's something we currently do. But right now in our fee schedule, it's kind of a paragraph at the bottom. And I just really want to put that up in the table to make it very clear that that's the situation. So.
Sorry. At least he didn't throw it.
It's trying
So again, it's just about clarity, transparency. It's not a new fee, it's something we do now, just really making it obvious that this will apply if you choose to start without your permit. There's another note on the bottom of the fee schedule that can stay. It doesn't really, impact too much. It's really honestly something a little bit more for staff to be aware of. If people are applying for both a building permit for a principal structure and an accessory structure at the same time, the fee is a little bit less, basically, because we're kind of reviewing things together. One site plan and that kind of thing. So we want to give people a little bit of a break if they're gonna apply for things together. So again, nothing changed. That's the same. And that statement will. Any questions, comments on that section? Environmental health. Excuse me. As I said, the environmental health division became a part of planning and development in 2012. Before that, they were with the health department, so I don't have fee data before 2012 with them. And this is where the two changes since 2012 have occurred with our fee schedule, with the exception of new processes. Anything that existed in 2012, we've had two changes to, and that is the removal of the $75 fee for minor repairs. So now they're $0, and that was and also an increase of $1 from $8 to $9 for bacterial water testing. Which, side note, that doesn't even really cover the cost of the materials, but that's another situation. So I just wanted to point out those are the only changes for fees and processes that existed in 2012. Those are the only changes that have been made. So I want to talk a little bit more about minor and major repairs. Prior to 2018, all wastewater repair permits, regardless of the severity, whether they're major, minor, complete failure, or just a lid issue, or just considered repair, and you have a $75 fee, regardless. In 2018, that's when it was kind of broken out into major and minor. Minor was the fee was removed and it's $0, and major retained the $75 fee. So of course, major repairs are a lot larger. They're your tank replacement, they're your field replacement, or both, a lot more major. Minor repairs are a little bit obviously smaller, components, issues with components, things like that, plugged lines, all that sort of stuff. But really, the process is roughly the same. We still have to review the issue. We still have to make a site visit. On some minor repairs, if it's minor enough, we will allow the installers to take photographs as long as it properly documents, that they've made the repair, they made the change, and meets our regulations. We do allow that. But most of the time, all the time, we go out on majors. At least once, could be multiple times. And most of the time, we'll go out on minors as well. So for that, I am proposing to do a fee of $50 for minor and $100 for major. I do think both should require some sort of fee, again, because there is work involved, there is site visits, there is, a variety of tasks we're putting into this. But I do think it's important that they're separated. They shouldn't be the same, because there's going to be a lot more work put into a major repair than a minor repair. Again, it could be multiple site visits, probably is multiple site visits, especially if we have a major failure. So that's just kind of what I'm looking at.
I think you're gonna really need to be able to define the differences between those two.
Yeah, and we do have what's categorized, for major and minor. Again, major are those complete, your tank is completely shot. Your field is completely shot, or the system itself is completely shot. We're not talking about if there's like a lid issue or a plugged line. Those are minor. So our major are really fairly well defined major system not working, sort of thing. So, and again, it could be one component or the other, or it could be the entire system.
Those, do the owners get those, or when they call someone to come out and fix something, that's who?
Most of the time it's the installer.
The installer, yeah, because the owners don't, they call someone and say something's wrong, and
exactly.
And the repair people, they know what's major, minor, what's required.
Yeah.
And they file, that's who files the permit.
Right, exactly. More often than not, it's the installer or the person who actually does the work to apply for the permit. So I'm kind of work with us on that. So I know I don't have a ton of time, so I'm just gonna kind of keep moving. So daycare licensing. As you folks know, the health department collects that application and fee. And then it's sent over to us to review the wastewater system and the private well, if there is one. The private well, we have to also do water testing. So basically we're reviewing all the permits and documentation for both systems, if you will, making sure it is permitted, making sure the system has been pumped in the last 5 years, because that's our requirement, that's code requirement. At least one direction. Again, we need to see in the field how things are functioning, how they're looking, how they're working. And we also have to go up and take the water sample. So right now we only charge for the water sample. So, and we only do, I believe we do bacteria nitrate. So it's $11 that we charge for this whole review and site inspection and permit. I mean, we don't issue our own permit, of course, we let the health department know that we've signed off. But it's $11 for our whole part in that. And so for that part, I am looking at a $50 fee for our portion of that to help kind of offset again the water testing costs, the site inspection, the reviews that we have to do. I mean, these are essentially the same as when we do an environmental systems inspection. When people sell a home, we're looking at the whole system, making sure things are functioning and it's healthy. And so we have children that are going in there. So we of course want to make sure things are functioning properly. So again, that fee doesn't completely cover everything. And again, that's not the intent, but that would help offset, some of the costs that we deal with that. So I'm just going to keep moving unless you folks want to stop me, because I know I don't have a lot of time. So licensing. So as I mentioned before, in late 2021, we got together and you folks approved fees for our agritourism license and our short-term rental license. Prior to that, they didn't have fees assigned to them, but of course the STR license was new at the time. So we did a 200 initial and 100 renewal for both of those licenses. Excuse me. And of course, we've gotten several short-term rental license applications over the last few months, and so that's been fine. Nobody's really had too much heartache about that. So for the excavation licenses, the process is pretty much the same as short-term rental and agritourism. We get, of course, the license application in, there's a bunch of documentation that comes with it. We review all of that. We do site inspections, sometimes maybe multiple, depending on, the results of the first one, if you will. We have to monitor for continued compliance, tracking, issuing license, all that sort of stuff. The excavation license does the same thing. It's just a different thing on licensing. So now, for excavation licenses, it's $150 for initial and renewal. And right now, we're also making them essentially start all over. We make them give us all the same information that they gave us initially. So we're working to streamline that process for one thing, because that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So, so I'm proposing for that to match, because it's the same process, to match the agritourism, match the STR license fees of the 200 initial and 100 renewal. That'll of course be a little bit more upfront for folks, but it will be less when they do their annual reviews with us. So
what is it, the excavation license? What's that?
I'm sorry.
What is the excavation license for? I mean,
So it's our quarries, our borrow pits. Yeah, anytime people are doing basically groundwork, is that like on a large scale? I don't want to just say, somebody digging up the foundation,
right.
on a large scale, doing something with those materials, taking materials in, that sort of thing.
Just seems like that title can be clearer. It's not very clear there. Do you think it has something to do with agritourism or rentals and it's where it's placed? It just seems like maybe a little more descriptive to me. Because that was my question, excavation.
What is that?
And at what level of excavation?
Right.
Yeah, we can definitely clarify that.
Yeah.
That's easy enough.
Title.
Okay. Pardon me. So just again, just kind of keep moving along here. So mobile home park licenses. Those work a little bit differently than the previous three that we just talked about. And right now we have 6 permitted mobile home parks within the county. Most of them are fairly small. We have a couple that are 5 lots. One I think it's 8 goes up from there, and then one that's all the way over 160 lots. So it doesn't really make sense to assess a flat fee for all of those, because then your person who has 5 shouldn't necessarily have to pay the same as somebody who has 160. That doesn't really work. That doesn't match up. Right now, our cost for mobile home park licensing is $5 per lot for initial and renewal with a maximum of 300. So that means our mobile home parks that have 5 lots, they're paying us $25. And as I said, they shouldn't be paying the same amount, but right now it's per lot, so that kind of makes that change there. So mobile home park licensing requires, includes review of the application, the supporting materials, tracking and licensing, continuing monitoring and compliance. But it also includes site inspections of each lot, each unit, and the entire park. So we're looking at a lot of stuff when it comes to mobile home parks. There's a lot of criteria they need to meet. So, and it's both our planning compliance specialists and our environmental health specialists that are simply involved with that as well. So that said, I don't think that $5 per lot is really enough to cover all of that work that we do. So something this is one of them that I don't have a proposal. This is just something considering. And if you folks have some direction or thoughts, I would greatly appreciate it. Because the other idea is we're not here to make this difficult for people. Some of these parks are used to paying $25. I don't want to all of a sudden say, okay, now you owe us, $200, $300, $500. I mean, I'm not looking to do that. I'm not looking to make this hard for people. I'm looking to help offset our costs in some degree. So to that end, we are looking at initial license fees, maybe somewhere between 100 and 200 plus $5 per lot over 50. So then that kind of separates the smaller ones from the larger ones, which we just have one right now that's over 50. But then they're not paying the same amount, because that's important that they don't pay the same amount. And then a maximum, this might be a little too high, but a maximum of between 400 and 500. And then depending on what our initial license fee is, if it's 100 versus 200, of course, the renewals would be less. So something between 75 and 100 plus that $5 per lot over 50. So again, that's not one that I'm necessarily ready to say, here's what I propose, let's do this. It's just something where Darren and I have been talking about. He's of course the one who does these inspections, does these reviews, so kind of give us an input on that. So I'm really running out of time. So I don't know if you folks have any initial thoughts on that, or if I'm probably obviously going to have to bring this back, get some more time to talk about this again, which is perfectly fine. So I don't know if you folks just want to think about some things and we can talk more another time.
There's a lot of fees and a lot of depth to this. It needs to be brought back. We need to work on it separate. Each section, take some time, figure out where we're at and work through each one of them instead of trying to swallow all of this at once. It's just not, it's not going to work.
It's a lot. No, absolutely. I can definitely do that.
Let's bring back each one of those. We can talk about them specifically and then work our way down the line and get it complete.
Okay.
We didn't get this time to study it.
Yeah. I haven't even had a chance to really go through it myself.
Going right after the holidays, not many people had time over the holidays to review a lot.
I don't know about the rest of you, but my January is pretty packed too, so.
Okay, so I will go ahead and end there, just because we're not going to get through any more right now. And I will, just as you said, Commissioner Ford, just plan to schedule some time individually for each category to help you folks about. Okay, so that
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thanks, Amanda.
thank you.
Clancy, you going from the full-time to 10:35?
Yes.
Commissioners, next you have executive session. Greg, how you doing?
Good, Rich, how are you?
All right. Enjoy your break.
I did.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like you lost it, Greg.
I'll move in second, meeting adjourned. In favor? Okay.
Run away.
All right. Thank you. We'll talk maybe.
Yeah, it's maybe whatever kind of dictator you want, but now we want or not. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be a dictator. It's not gonna be
A real one.
Yeah, I'm gonna iron fist.
Happy New Year. Yeah.
This will be just great.
Corey,
Yes.
you're gonna have to do something with this.
You might have to catch it. I mean, it's gonna.
At least it's still in one piece.
The fan situation with this, we need to find a permanent solution.
Let me just give you a permanent a replacement. I don't know about its permanency. We'll see with you.
Yeah, I feel like I'm bringing that to you about every other month and it's the same issue and it's driving me nuts.
No problem.
It's a short drive. It's a short drive.
I bit my tongue. I wouldn't say that, but
It's early in the year, Rich, but we got a long ways to go here, so don't wear out your welcome. Are we, or do we need to? Oh, there's.
Yep.
So.
Fine.
I will go ahead and move the county commission, including Chairman McKinley, Vice Chair Foki and Commissioner Ford. Recess into executive session on potential litigation for the purpose of consultation with Riley County Councilor Clancy Holman and Craig Cox, Deputy County Councilor, attorneys for the commission, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, an exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The open meeting to resume in the commission chamber at 10:35 a.m.
Okay, I'll second that.
I haven't been given us that packet, but it's this evening.
Right, we are live.
One of the attached needs a print.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that's what was in the middle folder.
No, that's not the same.
That's something else.
That packet.
Well, it depends.
I haven't gone through all of it yet.
Yeah. I'll just make sure everybody gets it.
Okay.
Going live, commissioners.
Okay.
Need a motion.
I'll go ahead and move that the Florida County Commissioners come out of executive session.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to come out of executive session, all in favor?
Aye. Also move that the record reflect no binding action was taken during the executive session.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded, no binding action was taken, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, commissioners. You have Vivian. PIO update.
Far away.
All right, I hope you're ready for the world's longest PowerPoint. I'll try to be quick. I did a summary of 2022. And may have gotten a little carried away. So if I notice I'm starting to fall asleep, I'll just skip some months. But it was a big year. It was my first year with the county. So far, I've been really happy here. One of the first kind of tasks that I wanted to, I might shut the slide off, excuse me.
Yep, the first 2 months. Yep.
Okay, perfect. As someone new to the organization, I really wanted to try and identify the character so I could communicate with the right voice. And I kept coming back to this concept of service and servant leadership. And that really strikes me as the driving force here. It's not a huge surprise because people who go into public work tend to have a strong public service motivation. And the depth of that service motivation really surprised me. We really work to provide excellent customer service to everyone. I've talked about this before, but it surprises me how many 5-star reviews that our departments get on Google. The treasurer's office, people going to visit the DMV and renew their tags, leave a 5-star review. I had a great time. There was one, it's hard to believe it was true. They said, oh, it's my 21st birthday, and they came and somebody walked me down the hall and I hugged somebody because like they were excited for this whole interaction. And I wish I could come down there every month. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me, it's the DMV. But we consistently get positive reviews. And that just reinforces the idea that we truly are committed to serving the public. And that's kind of the voice that informs my communication style. Hopefully, that's what I'm aiming for. And then to condense that, I chose 3 words to kind of guide the communication efforts. I want everything I do to be helpful, wholesome, and accurate. And to me, that means the word wholesome means humble, truthful, and with good intentions. And is it accurate and truthful? And I hope that's been effective so far. I'd be happy to talk with you if you have additional guidance or feedback or even dad jokes to share with me, because I try to keep those on hand now. So it does feel to me like a good time to look back at 2022. I was going to be here last year, last year, with a quick summary of news items, major events, and just kind of happenings for the organization. You've received staff updates for everyone, so I hope this isn't terribly repetitive, but I'm in kind of a unique position to serve all departments and have that 30,000-foot view. When I first started back in January 2022, it was all about Omicron. We started with a huge surge in January, and this is the peak. This chart covers daily case numbers from the start of the pandemic. And January last year was by far the biggest surge. That week, we saw over 1,000 new positive cases. There were 18 patients hospitalized at Via Christi on January 12th. And at the January 11th peak, we had 253 cases identified in a single day. These are the numbers of days, which are consistent. This was Omicron. It's very visible. That's what we were in the middle of at this time last year. So I didn't think about much else that month. We also had some good news to share, though. Community Corrections was awarded a grant to start a drug court program. I skipped ahead. to start a drug court program. And we made that announcement in January, and Community Corrections also held classes for families interested in joining that protective home program that took place in January. Seems both like a long time ago and just yesterday. Looking at February 10th was the meeting in Leonardville to discuss EMS services for the north part of the county. We had about 200 people show up, and 30 people provided testimony, including retired EMS director or EM director Pat Collins. And now, resulting out of that, the county has plans to build an EMS station in Leonardville. And expected to be completed by the end of this year, I believe. That's what Dave Adams said. And then unfortunately, on February 25th, County Appraiser Greg Buchanan passed away. He began working for the county in 1988 and became county appraiser in 2006. He was a trusted mentor and friend who served with unparalleled integrity. He made a great positive impact on the organization and the community, and we miss him. Also, let's see, moving on to March. See, I told you to be quick. The health department started seeing walk-in patients at their clinic. They hadn't been able to offer that service since 2015. And now patients can visit without an appointment for services such as immunizations, reproductive health care, and some testing services. And they've been seeing an average of 147 walk-in patients per week. So that doesn't include all the scheduled patients, any of the outreach programs. That is just walk-in patients, and that seems like a pretty impressive number to me. Community Corrections, as I mentioned, they were able to enroll 11 new households in the protective home program that provides short-term safe housing for children who children in need who've been removed by their home from their homes by the court. And I know we kind of hear news stories from other places that, you know, about children sleeping in offices if they've been removed from protective custody. There's no place to put them in the short term. Thankfully, we have a workable solution for that. And kids don't have to sleep in offices. They get to stay in their community, attend their same school, and it provides some safety and shelter for them during a time of need. They brought their total to 20. I don't know if that's your name, but they have 20 total working. March was also the beginning of annual burn season on the prairie. The fire district, Riley County Fire District #1 issues those permits, and the GIS department came up with this public facing map. It's hard to see in this small graphic, but it notes active and recent burn permits. So farmer with land can kind of check in and see, okay, my neighbor's burning today, or neighbor's 2 sections away are burning. This is what's going on. Is this a good time to burn? Good way to check in. Also in March, EMS participated in the annual polar plunge. Looks like a warm, sunny day. It was not warm out there. They actually won the costume contest too. The theme was opposites. Right arm, right leg, and Josh is the ground. So they've been doing a lot of work to increase community outreach. And this was just a fun event, a fun way for them to connect with the public. So it was nice to be out there for that. And then this was April. We responded to 4 major wildfires. The first one was up by Sedalia Community Church. Then we had the Carlson Road Fire, Baldwin Park Road Fire, and the Bajorman Road Fire. The Kansas Forestry Service, Manhattan Fire Department, Johnson County Rangeland Fire Task Force all provided mutual aid. We had air support. Thankfully, no structures or livestock were lost, and there were no injuries reported, although these were very major events. Also in May, we welcomed, actually jumping to May, we welcomed 4 new employees in supervisor roles. We wrote news releases to introduce them to the community and to the rest of the staff. And the Riley County Health Department held their first community baby shower, hoping to make this an annual event. I know they gave away at least 50 kind of safe sleep packages that included like a pack and play. They got donations, grant funding to make this possible. And the goal is first to share resources with new and expecting parents, but they also had a big education component about safe sleep practices to prevent SIDS. That was really successful. And the commission also approved the mid-year salary increase, and we're very appreciative of that. It made a difference for recruitment and retention. Yeah, this all happened in the same year. It goes back to this is a year. Severe storms. This is a graphic the National Weather Service produced with data for the EF2 tornado that hit June 11th. You can see the path just barely. This is it in yellow, the path of the tornado, and that's right in the center of town. Affected mostly residential areas and homes and Greek housing states, sustained millions of dollars in damages. Riley County Public Works Department was also hit by straight winds from the storm. An outbuilding that sheltered vehicles and equipment for Noxious Weed Division sustained the most damage, with an estimated loss of $2.7 million to the structure and equipment. And then 7 large garage doors on the fleet maintenance shop were also significantly damaged, with a loss total estimated at $451,000. You can see this is a lot of stuff going on. Since you don't usually get to peek at what the Emergency Operations Center looks like, this was the day after. And it's a training room at the Riley County Police Department that's kind of make do with, and doesn't have to offer it. But kind of demonstrates how grateful we're going to be for that new public safety headquarters space. And then the transfer station also played a big part in this storm. They opened on a Sunday to accept brush and limbs and debris from the storm. And that week they took in 760 tons. It's a lot. Also in June, COVID vaccines were approved for young children and were offered at the health department. Then in July, July brought more fires, this time 2 structure fires near Randolph. Thankfully, again, no injuries reported with either fire. And we had that returned cattle trailer up by Randolph. Responders and community volunteers were out in the sun and the heat for about 5 hours that day. There were 60 head of cattle on board the trailer at the time, and they worked to cut them out and save as many as they could. Neighbors showed up on horseback to round them up out of the field. And even though it was a big tragedy and a sad day, it was nice to see how the community rallied together for that. July, another big month. We also participated in annual active violence training exercises with fire department, EMS, schools, and we're working to update plans based on what we learned. This is something they do every year at a different site. I'm proud to be part of that group that's involved in planning, and though it's certainly a shame that we have to plan for these kind of events, we're doing the best we can to be prepared. A lot of people are involved, a lot of agencies come together. Chip and seal projects were completed in July over on Seidler Road, Messenger Road, and Rannells Road. This is a photo that Alvin was nice enough to send me. We also had a lot of success. The National Association of Counties provided us with this bin, a flag retirement box. We put out a little bit of information about it and realized there was a huge need. People didn't know what to do with their flags when they were too tattered to accurately represent the country. I've taken 2 loads so far out of the bin, 2 big boxes that the American Legion completes the retirement ceremony. They burn the flags with dignity. That's something we will continue to promote. Primary election in August. This was my first experience kind of seeing behind the scenes. I was really impressed with the professionalism and just the sheer amount of work that staff and temporary election workers put in to make this happen. A total of 17,521 ballots were cast in the primary election this year. The Riley County Fire District and Emergency Management have been working this year in particular at outreach. They participated in the Leonardville Hullabaloo, and they offered truck tours, open house, they talked with kids, there were activities, and they did a big dunk tank. And that's all an effort to raise awareness about the department and get new volunteers. It's been really successful. The Register of Deeds in August launched the Property Fraud Alert Program. We've had more than 400 people sign up to participate so far. It's free to participate, and we got some good news coverage for that. And also Shiloh Hedger was honored with the Hedger was honored with a 2022 Betty J. McBride Outstanding Kansas Treasure Award. We celebrated that with her. I was a little surprised that the burning of the brush pile at the transfer station generated so much news coverage, but every local outlet covered the story. And I think it's partly because came on the heels of that major storm and all that debris was included. But they burned a total of more than 6,000 tons of trees, limbs, and storm debris. And the burn was successful. Everything went off as planned, and it's a big visual spectacle. And I think that probably helped generate that news interest as well. But yeah, sometimes you don't know what they're going to be interested in. September saw the Windy Hill Road fire, and Health Department began free COVID testing drive up. That service had previously been provided by KDHE, but they closed shop back in April. There was less demand, and that made sense. But in anticipation of those increased fall case numbers, which we've seen every year, it coincides with flu season. The health department put this resource together, and it's been the traffic's been a little unpredictable. Some days every appointment slot is filled. Some days they only have 5 or 6. But then in December, they started offering testing also for flu and RSV. And that's been a good service to the public. Been a lot of interest in that. We also had severe weather, and which thankfully swung a little south of us. But people were confused when we sounded the sirens, and it gave us an opportunity to provide some additional education. And we're going to continue those announcements throughout the year, but most especially during the storm season. October is a very popular month for outreach and awareness. The National Night Out is hosted by RCPD every year, and Riley County EMS, Emergency Management, and Fire Department all participated. I got this nice group shot to kind of illustrate that we all get along. Fire and police get along in our community, which is really a benefit for us. And about 600 people stopped by to see the trucks and visit with staff and have a positive interaction during a non-crisis time. That's really important for building trust. We also have the annual Oktoberfest event. Health Department offered flu and COVID shots in a fun and relaxed environment, which makes it easier for people to get vaccinated, especially if they want to bring their kids in for a flu shot. Make it a little bit fun, so it's a little bit easier on the family, and more than 300 people participated in it. We also saw great progress towards building that public safety headquarters, which we're very well aware of. In November, had a successful general election, by far the biggest news for the month. A total of 18,152 ballots were cast. We also saw our most popular Facebook post, election information, earned a reach of 14,000 people, which is encouraging as we're hoping more people turn out to vote. And for our modest following, that's pretty impressive. During advanced voting, we were made aware of a redistricting error that involved 4 streets near Sunset Cemetery in Manhattan. The clerical error was quickly corrected and notified the public, the media, and the state representatives for the 66th and 67th districts. Got some news coverage, but we were very quick to repair that. It was positive. We also highlighted the work of the GIS department, and that's a practice I'm going to continue. Recently, Household Hazardous Waste took me on a tour of the facility. I was able to do a write-up about that. We've got some news coverage, and I'm going to try to kind of every month go visit a different department to help educate both our staff and the public about the good work we're doing in Riley County. And then commissioners also endorsed the Riverfront NHK project in November. For the first time, we participated in Operation Green Light. Commissioner Ford spearheaded that effort, and the goal is to demonstrate support for veterans and families. That was an impressive display that came together very quickly and involved a lot of volunteer support. And speaking of volunteers, 2 of our volunteer firefighters were virtual guests on national TV, the Live with Regis and Kelly. That's how far back. Live with Kelly and Ryan show. They've offered more than 30 years of dedicated service to the community and have taught more than 200 volunteers how to be firefighters. That was a big That was a big celebration. I was glad that they were able to do that. December, we're already at December. Perry Piper was recognized for his award of Sanitarian of the Year, very big honor. And I talked earlier about the drive out testing that offered at Riley County Health Department, and we had that huge winter storm. And thankfully, we did not experience any widespread power outages. There were a lot of vehicle accidents, but we made it through the worst of the storm. Then looking ahead for 2023, I have a lot of plans, of course, because I always have a lot of plans. But I want to do more to celebrate local history. As we're on this cusp, on the cusp of all this change coming to the community, all this growth, new businesses, new residents, it can be a little bit unsettling. And we have the unique opportunity to help ground people by sharing more information about the great local history here. And make sure the things that people love about the community, the things that make us great, all these elements of public service and servant leadership and how we take care of each other as a community. We can celebrate those things and give people the sense that the things that you love about this community will carry on through the future. That's what I'm hoping to do, at least. And Captain Hensler is definitely on board with that. Departments, of course, will continue their outreach efforts, and I will continue to highlight the good work that our people do. We talk a lot about taking care of our employees for purposes of recruitment and retention. And one way that we do that is by letting people know that we appreciate them. So I write articles for Employee of the Month. And then mentioned earlier that I visit departments, find out what they do, ask them questions about their work, and let folks know kind of what goes on. Because there's so much that we do at the county. We have all these different departments doing a variety of different things. And it's nice to be able to share those stories during non-crisis times. And I also want to take a minute to thank you all for your work and your support for the community and for the organization. You're a huge part of the character here. It's a good character. You respect each other, you respect us, and you really care about the community and staff. And by doing that, you make us feel supported. So thank you for that. Thank you for your time. And made it.
Good presentation.
Thank you. And nice to look back. It was quite quickly.
Could you delete the pictures of former Commissioner Kearns?
Photoshop would be many things.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time and happy new year.
How long you want, Clancy, on this?
I think 10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes. Give him the right one.
Is IT aware of this? Oh, yeah.
We just shut the door on him, so. I just said, yeah, go ahead.
You don't have a story, you think, going on.
I know,
have a good
I know.
story.
I know, that's what I wish I had some great story. I did go dancing with the boot on New Year's Eve, so.
Oh.
Really?
Well, we had a family wedding and we were all together. I wore the boot, at least I was semi-responsible. Sure, it was very.
Sprained or what?
I have torn the peroneal tendon, which is the one that goes underneath the ankle. Oh, gosh. Apparently it has several tears, so I'm trying to get those to heal and
You're
then,
gonna have to call IT, I think.
yeah.
No, he's
He's
right.
coming.
He's coming.
He's here for me.
Yeah, but he can't stay in.
I understand that. I didn't know we were gonna have an 11 o'clock executive session.
No, my point is someone needs late. No.
Okay,
Yeah.
I did. I texted him already. Okay. I'll go ahead and move that County Commission, including Chairman McKinley, Vice Chair Cokie, and Commissioner Ford, recess into executive session on performance matter of non-elected personnel to protect the privacy of the employee, in exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, with Clancy Holman, Riley County Counselor, Attorney for the Commission, Elizabeth Ward, Human Resource Manager, and John Ellerman, Public Works Director. Open public Meeting to resume in the chamber at, I didn't catch what time.
11:10.
11:10, okay, AM.
I would second that.
We moved and seconded to go into executive session, all in favor.
And John, can I give that to him? Yeah, read through the
I'll give
next part.
both of them.
I've got one for you.
Oh, okay. I was just, for another one or not? Sure. Thank you.
Give me just a sec.
Sure.
Oh, it's just like- Yeah.
questions.
That does not surprise me. But I didn't say anything, Clancy didn't hear it.
We are live.
Okay. I'll go ahead and move that the Board of County Commissioners come out of executive session.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded, come out of executive session, all in favor?
Aye. And I'll also move that the record reflect action shall be taken consistent with the consensus reached in executive session.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded that action will be taken, consistent in the session.
Post them.
All in favor?
North Central Kansas.
I can do that one. For some reason, I can't do this. I'm on it every time.
You need these, Rich?
He got me one, thank you.
Okay, do you have the other one too?
Yeah, you gave me the first one.
Okay,
Yep, I just didn't have the second one.
I got you.
Yep, thank you, guys.
We're done.
I don't have anything else at the moment.
I just have one correction place where you need to sign Commissioner's earlier document. This darn form. You had signed here. I need you to just sign right under Board of County Commissioners on both of them.
Okay.
What was that?
That form's, that's
Oh,
the
sorry.
noxious weed,
Oh.
noxious weed one. The form's horrible. It wants commissioners assigned, but it doesn't give you a line. The only lines where the district engineer is, and that's where it automatically assigns because it's the only line.
Just you. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it was action taken today. Thank you.
Seeing nothing else, then I can go ahead and make a motion for the first time in 2023 to adjourn the January 5th meeting of the Riley County Commission.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
Everyone have a good weekend.